Priority number one for the New York Jets this offseason has to be addressing the offensive line, but you can't do that without answering the Elijah Vera Tucker question. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Talking Jets with Tigo. My name is Tigo, and today we're going to talk about the New York Jets offensive line and how do you go about answering the Elijah Vera Tucker question, which is, where is he going to play? Right now, Elijah Vera Tucker is the linchpin to this offensive line unit, and we have to talk about the state of the offensive line and what the offseason plan should be to kind of get the answer of what we should do with Elijah Vera Tucker. Elijah Vera Tucker has shown us already that he can play left tackle, left guard, right tackle. He's played everywhere, and if we asked him to, he'd probably play center and do it really well as well. And while I understand the sentiment and I believe that Elijah Vera Tucker's best position in the NFL is at guard, the state of the offensive line might change that assumption and where we're going to have to play him. So let's talk about it, right? Right now, when we look at the starting offensive line unit for the New York Jets, and essentially what the New York Jets wanted was that Mekhi Becton was going to play right tackle, Dwayne Brown was going to play left tackle, Laken Tomlinson and Elijah Vera Tucker would be the guards, and then that Connor McGovern would eventually get supplanted by Joe Tippmann at center, and that's the plan. When we look at the guys that are coming back next year who are under contract, the only guys that are under contract next year, Laken Tomlinson, Elijah Vera Tucker, and Joe Tippmann. So that would make sense. Hey, the interior of the offensive line is kind of done and settled. Dwayne Brown is going to retire. Mekhi Becton probably isn't going to come back to this team. He has a problem with Keith Carter because I just don't think he likes being coached hard, and Keith Carter coaches his players very, very hard and aggressively. And let's be real, Mekhi Becton does seem like the type of player that's going to blame the New York Jets coaching staff and the New York Jets organization for the kind of rocky start to the beginning of his career, moving him from left to right and all of this stuff, and he didn't like that. He thinks he's a left tackle. And so you know what? That's fine. He didn't do all that great this year. He probably doesn't want to come back to the New York Jets. And if we're being honest, we probably don't want to bring him back anyway. So that leaves us with an interior offensive line under contract and two tackles that we're going to need to replace. And we don't have the answer to tackle in the locker room right now. The only two tackles that we have in the locker room that are going to be here beyond this year are Carter Warren and Max Mitchell. And while I'm a big fan of both of these guys, and you can look back, I was big fans of these guys coming into the draft, Max Mitchell didn't get a healthy offseason last year to really fully build up his muscle mass, gain some weight, and play and get ready to play at the NFL level, the prep that I wanted to. So you can't really bank on him being one of your tackles. And the same thing with Carter Warren. And while Carter Warren had a really high draft grade before the injury, again, also didn't have an offseason to work and to get healthy. And again, while I have high hopes that Carter Warren and Max Mitchell can be more than just backup swing tackles for the New York Jets, you can't bank on either one of those guys being a starter. And because of that, it leaves you with two huge holes in the tackle spots that you need to fill in one offseason, which brings us to the Laken Tomlinson situation, which is, while you would love to get out from under that contract and go and find a new guard, going into an offseason where you need to replace two tackles and then choosing out of your own your own decision making to also have to find a guard doesn't make sense. It's easier, and it's not all that easy, but it's easier to find two offensive linemen than it is to find three. The entire league is looking for offensive linemen, and I still think something's up with Laken Tomlinson because the way that he's playing at the New York Jets is nowhere near the level of play that we saw in San Francisco. It just doesn't make sense. So you got to hope that there's something going on there, maybe whatever, right? Get a presence at left tackle that's more stable. Maybe his play goes up and performs a little bit better, and he doesn't have to worry about as much stuff, and he can just play football again, and he can get better. So right now, as it stands, the New York Jets need a left tackle and a right tackle, which is it's almost an insurmountable task to go out there and do, to find a starting left tackle and right tackle. But Elijah Vera Tucker has shown us that not only can he play left guard, not only can he play right guard, but he has also played left tackle and right tackle at a relatively high level. And don't get me wrong, Elijah Vera Tucker's ceiling at guard is much, much higher than his ceiling at tackle. But the one thing that general manager Joe Douglas has shown us that he can do is go and find interior offensive linemen to come in and play really, really well. We all saw the LDT signing and him pulling him off of, free agency, coming in and him playing well for the New York Jets when we needed him to. If it wasn't for the COVID season, I think we would have brought LDT back to play. We tried after COVID, to bring him back, and he could never find his footing again, taking a year off, which makes sense. We all remember Herbig and how we brought him in and how I wanted to bring Herbig back and cut Laken Tomlinson. You bring Herbig, you put him in at right guard, you get rid of Laken Tomlinson, put Elijah Vera Tucker back at left guard, and that was the plan that I thought would have been the best way forward after how LT played in the first season. But he went off to Pittsburgh and got starting money to go start there. And again, we've seen from Joe Douglas this ability to find interior offensive linemen to play. And so if you're Joe Douglas, if you're Keith Carter, if you're the New York Jets, Nathaniel Hackett, the whole offensive coaching staff, hell, even Aaron Rodgers, you're going up to Elijah Vera Tucker and you're saying, hey, this offseason, we don't know which tackle you're going to play yet, but expect to play one of left or right tackle. And why do I say one of and not giving him a definitive position? Well, because it depends on how you go about free agency. If someone goes in free agency, and I know a big name that's going to be talked about a lot this offseason is going to be David Bakhtiari, and you want to bring him in, not just because of the Aaron Rodgers connection, like eliminate that from your mind, but just because when healthy, he is a Pro Bowl tackle, and the reason he hasn't been healthy is because he had a botched surgery that he finally got done right. I'm willing to bank on that kind of player. Now, let's say Joe Douglas isn't, and we'll talk about the whole free agent tackles that might be available in a separate video. Let's say you go the draft route. Well, in the first round, there's really only 2 tackles that the New York Jets are probably going to be looking at legitimately in the top 10 to play for the New York Jets, and that's Talise Fuaga, who's my favorite tackle in this class in terms of guys that we can get. Joe Alt is my favorite tackle, but we're not going to get him. He's going to go in the top 5 if I had to guess. And then it goes Talise Fuaga and J.C. Latham because they're more ready to start. I'm not a big J.C. Latham guy, but they're both right tackles. And so asking a rookie to come into the NFL and learn a new speed of the game and asking him to protect Aaron Rodgers' blind side, so switching sides, is not something that I'm interested in doing. So I would tell Elijah Vera Tucker, hey, you're playing tackle, practice left and right, and at camp, we're going to decide which one you're going to go depending on what we do in free agency or in the draft. And that makes fixing your offensive line much, much easier because there are going to be free agent guards that you're going to be able to get. There are going to be draftable centers that you could go get in the later parts of the draft if you want to move Joe Tippmann to right guard. Having Elijah Vera Tucker and Joe Tippmann on this team and having them being able to play multiple positions across the offensive line really, really helps this team long term because the plan can be as easy as bring Connor McGovern back, put Elijah Vera Tucker at right tackle, put Joe Tippmann at right guard, sign David Bakhtiari to play your left tackle, and you're done, and you've fixed your offensive line. Or it can just be as easy as put Elijah Vera Tucker at left tackle, go and sign Kevin Zeitler in free agency to play right guard, and now you draft Talise Fuaga to play your right tackle, offensive line, done. We've seen from the wild card weekend that the offensive line isn't the most important thing because we saw a team with an incredibly good offensive line lose in the Philadelphia Eagles, and we saw 2 teams with incredibly bad offensive lines win in the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. The thing that makes the difference is the quarterback, and we've got that. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. What should we do with Elijah Vera Tucker? Where do you think he should play? And if you are putting him at tackle, what are you going to do about guard? If you are putting him at guard, what are you going to do about tackles? Let me know in the comment section below. And last but not least, go Jets.